All right, Chad, you mentioned them a few minutes ago, the Edmonton Oilers, and I'm with you. It's kind of a toss-up between the two Alberta teams for the top of this division. This Edmonton team didn't really need to do a whole lot this offseason. They took a huge step last year. They made the Final Four, obviously got swept by the Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, but they took a big step. I like the Oilers. Obviously, some risk to the Jack Campbell signing, with that being a 5-year contract, but I do like Campbell. He's a good goaltender, a good person. You know him well, obviously. They locked up Evander Kane. I don't mind the Brett Kulak deal as well, and I really like what the Oilers have done, keeping everything together. And they're going to be a contender for sure. So I've got them finishing number 2 in this division. But Chad, like you alluded to earlier, it could go either way with the two Alberta teams going 1 and 2 in this division. So just a thought on the Oilers.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise. I have Edmonton number 2 as well. I think they're going to be a good team. I don't know if they're Final Four good. Final Four good is basically, Draisaitl and McDavid each scoring over 2 points per game, and we'll see if they can do that again in the playoffs. Like, that's essentially what happened. The one thing I will say is, like, their forward group is pretty much the same, but they might have the best top 6 in the NHL. It's definitely up there. Top 5 for sure. Top 3 arguable. And Oilers fans will tell you it's the best in the league because of those two players. Their D is, kind of the same. They've got a couple younger players like Broberg and Bouchard who are going to need to take a step to kind of fill in for a veteran presence who is missing this year, and that's Duncan Keith, because he won't be there. But I don't love their D in general, but for the most part, it's okay. And on goalie, did I lose you guys there for a sec? Okay, nope. Just making sure. And on goalie, like, they got a hell of a lot better. Replacing that tandem of Smith and Koskinen with Jack Campbell and Stuart Skinner, who is finally going to be able to show his worth in the NHL, is just incredible. Like, what an upgrade. We know there's some risks with Campbell, Harp, like you alluded to, especially the money and the term. But, security in the crease is something that the Oilers haven't had in forever, and they're hoping that Jack Campbell can be that security. So overall, I like the Oilers a lot in this Pacific Division, and we'll see if Draisaitl and McDavid can keep carrying this team, and hopefully for Edmonton's sake, they can get to the same place they did last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, in the history of the Boys in the Booth division rankings, there's been 3 constants every single year. We don't give a shit about the Pacific. We have a hard time doubting Connor McDavid and his team.
Yeah.
And we do not ever doubt the Pittsburgh Penguins.
That's right. We can't.
We have to always keep in mind those 3 teams, or those 3 things. And that's why I had a hard time with the Calgary Edmonton debate, is I kept wanting to go, yeah, but McDavid's going to be angry this year, right? And I think we say that every single year. And I don't know. I have a hard time putting these guys ahead of Calgary, although it's pretty much the same team. You look at the forward core, it's all the same guys. You look at the defense, swap one guy in for Keith. What they improved on was their biggest weakness, and the thing that we talked about last year in the preseason rankings, in the trade deadline review, all of these things. We always talk about their weakness being goaltending. Well, they fixed that this year. So I have full confidence at locking them in at either 1 or 2, and in my mind 2, because of Calgary, not necessarily because of Edmonton. Although, like you, Chad, I do doubt their D-core constantly.
Yeah, like their defense, they don't really have, I don't know, like it seems like they're missing a piece or two, especially compared to a team like Calgary, who we just talked about, who has one of the best D-cores in the league. Like, I look at Edmonton's defense, and sure, they've got, guys like Nurse, and I like Bouchard a lot. And, like, they've got guys. It just seems like, I don't know, they're missing a piece or two to make that back end complete. For me, anyways, just when looking at other contenders, like, they had 104 points last year. They finished 11th in the entire league. I think that's probably about right around where they are right now. Looking at this roster on paper, I could see them doing that again this year. And, they're going to be a good team. But they're going to have to outscore their opponents, by a wide margin every night. And that's kind of what they do, especially when they've got those two guys. And by the way, like I talked about McDavid and Draisaitl having both over or equal to or over 2 points per game in the playoffs. Draisaitl also had a high ankle sprain. Like he could barely skate. Like we were talking about this when we listened to that 32 Thoughts interview with him, and he was very frank about it, and he was like, "Listen, guys, like I couldn't skate. He was the best player in the league of players who couldn't skate, and it was by far because he was stationary. He had to change his entire game. So a healthy Draisaitl throughout the entire year and playoffs would be the best thing for the Oilers. And man, like they're definitely good. They're definitely good. But number 2 is where they rank.
I have to imagine by the time of the trade deadline, assistant GM Connor McDavid is going to be stepping in and saying, we need to make a move to, strengthen the back end.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, they have a clear need now that it's not goaltending and it's, depth on the blue line. So
yeah, sense. Well, nowadays depth on the blue line costs about a first round pick and a blue chip prospect. So
yeah, true.
Yeah, it's a high price for sure. By the way, Evan Bouchard, 43 points last season, just a fantastic breakout year for him. But it's definitely less of not as deep as of a blue line with Duncan Keith deciding to hang him up. But looking forward to watching the Oilers again this year. Dylan Holloway, a young player, first-round pick who could maybe get an opportunity as a depth forward as well, which is what Edmonton always could use. So